watching PTV World.
Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanum. Pakhairagale. Ni hao. Tune shumme. Washmale. Ohio Gonzaimes. Guten Morgen. Hola. Bonjour. Privyet. Kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore. Ahlan wa sahlan. Marhaba. Buna. Mucho. Gracias. Swabiab. Marhaba. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into PTV World. You watching World This Morning alongside Shahzad Hassan Khan. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very sunny Wednesday morning over here in Islamabad. It's a little hot outside. So, I think, in fact, I will recommend for everybody who's out there, rather than going to anybody, who's actually going to fix your wrinkles for you, I think that the first step when we talk about skincare is sunblock. So please make sure that you use sunblock rather than investing millions of rupees and going to somebody who's actually going to inject some probably sort of silicone, and I don't know what it is, but all of those beauticians who are out there, they're kind of coming up with newer and newer techniques every single day. But believe me, if you're just going to apply sunblock, you will be way much more better and you're going to age less as well. This is one thing which I've tried and tested, even though that people might be thinking, yeah, tumhari apni umar kya hai, but still, ladies and gentlemen, this is one thing which I can say with full confidence. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, before I get started, it's a good news. And I wanted to start with the good news as well, and that is that, alhamdulillah, according to The Economist, Pakistan, in the index of all of those countries who actually had to kind of stop schooling and, nobody was going to attend the games and whatnot, in the index of normalcy is on number 3, which I believe is a good news. Pakistan is getting back on track, and, it is determined by how many people are attending sports events, how many people are out of houses, how many cars on the roads as well. So all of these factors do add. And alhamdulillah, now, after being inoculated or vaccinated, I believe that everybody who's outside, they're having the time of their life as well. I went out to dine in at a restaurant just last night, and it felt wonderful. It felt superb that, we are kind of getting back on track, and this is what everybody wanted. And shukar alhamdulillah, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, more than 4 million people, ladies and gentlemen, all over the world lost their lives. So we do remember all of those souls, all of those amazing and wonderful souls as well. But for all of those people who were able to survive, I think that, that the only one who you should actually be thanking is Allah Almighty. So Lamia, thank you very much. Because imagine the pain of losing someone from your family. And I know families where they've lost 2 or 3 loved ones just because of COVID. So, and everybody who has not been vaccinated as of yet, ladies and gentlemen, it's a humble request, and I'm going to pledge to you that please take our time, go to any vaccination center placed by NCOC as well. And they're doing a great job over here in Islamabad. So I went to the F9 mass vaccination center, and it only took me 5 minutes to get my first jab. And now I'm obviously gearing up for the second jab as well. And, so once again, you'll have to send an SMS on 1166 as well, and then, they're going to let you know, when you can actually go for the second jab of the vaccine, number 2. Number 3, ladies and gentlemen, a very unfortunate news came in. So with the good news, there's a bad news as well, and that is that Dilip Kumar has passed away. One of the most legendary singers of the, in fact, the actors of the continent, ladies and gentlemen, and people have drawn a lot of inspiration, even people who still want to act, kids who want to act. still watch movies of Dilip Kumar Saab, and the best, I think people might not even know about this fact that he was actually born in Peshawar, and his Pakistani name was Yusuf Khan, and he died at the age of 98 years. And for his family and for everybody who's out there who happened to be very close to him, we are very sorry for your loss, and may his soul rest in peace. So Dilip Kumar Saab, a legendary human being, ladies and gentlemen, and he's been to Pakistan quite a lot of times. In fact, the best part is that the guest we have today on our show has actually met him as well, and she kind of asked him this question while she was in New York, while she got a chance to meet Dilip Kumar Saab, that, so why did you always picked up on, you know, roles in which you had to portray a Hindu? So he said that, you know, you have not watched my film Mughal-e-Azam. So for all of those people who want to learn acting, he was an institute, he was a university as well, and his work will be remembered till the end of life, ladies and gentlemen. So this is it pretty much. But now, coming down to, because we are talking about Dilip Kumar Saab, so obviously it's going to bring in your mind, you know, you're going to talk about arts, you're going to talk about culture, you know, the kind of representation he had to himself and to the culture of India at that time as well. So I believe that, you know, that there are people over here who are actually taking up this mission of preservation of our heritage. And when we talk about heritage, a lot of people do get confused that, okay, you know, what comes under the umbrella of heritage? So it's probably arts, it's culture, and there are a lot more things as well. But how do we protect that? This is something which is kind of very debatable as well, because from Peshawar onwards, if you move towards Sindh, ladies and gentlemen, there are more than 70 languages over here in Pakistan as well. And this is something which I did research on as well, and that's how I got to know. So imagine people living in South Punjab, people actually living in Sindh, people living in Dadu, or people living in remote areas, and they have this immense talent to themselves that they actually think about coming down to the cities, or probably thinking about, you know, coming down towards urbanization as well. But now there's this institute, ladies and gentlemen, the Indus Heritage, who what they're doing is that they have taken up on this mission where they go to people, make sure that they have that skill to themselves as well, probably train them as well, and then give them a platform where they can sell whatever they make. I believe that that's going to give them their livelihood back, ladies and gentlemen. And there was a time when people used to make instruments, people used to make, you know, shawls, people used to make each and every, because even over here in Islamabad, we have this arts and crafts center where you go and you get those original items which are handmade by people as well. So why not appreciate all of them? Why not give them their livelihood back? And that's where Indus Heritage comes in. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be the chairperson of Indus Heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, she's been the chairperson for more than 10 years now. She is Miss Siddiqa Malik. Hello, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Walaikum salam. Good morning to you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. It's wonderful to have you over here on the show as well. And since I was quoting one of your stories that you actually happened to meet Dilip Kumar Saab, so
Yes.
how was the meeting? Let's start with that.
We were at the Plaza Hotel, and my sister and I. So Said, my husband, came and said, "Oh boy, when you see somebody outside, don't scream." So I said, "Who else?" So he took us out, and there was Mr. Dilip Kumar and Saira Banu.
Wow.
Very, very nice man, spoke in Urdu. And so I asked him, I said, "Dilip Saab, I've always seen you in roles of different religions and cultures. You've never portrayed a Muslim."
Yeah.
So he said, "No, probably you missed my movie, Mughal-e-Azam." So he said, "Thank you for reminding me of that." So very pleasant man, very, very friendly, lovely to talk to him.
Exactly. And this is what we're going to remember now as
Yes.
well. And you know, the kind of work he's
Correct.
done. And I mean, he is a legend, and he's going to stay like that for the rest of our lives as well. But now, ma'am, coming down to Indus Heritage, I
Yes.
mean, first of all, I'm very happy, I'm very ecstatic of the fact that for the very first time, I actually came around an institute which is talking about how to preserve our heritage, and that too through arts and culture, and providing livelihood where people now, you know, of the remote areas, even shedding those thoughts of coming down to
Yes.
cities like Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi, Multan, or Peshawar for that matter. So tell us a little about Indus Heritage
I will.
and what are they doing?
I'd be very happy to talk about it.
Wonderful.
it's the very name Indus Heritage came to the trustees after a lot of thought.
All right.
And the reason for the Indus Heritage, the name of the Indus Heritage was because if you look at the Indus River, it flows into the sea after traveling a long distance.
Exactly.
So and both sides of the Indus were artisans who used to make all sorts of beautiful work. So we thought, since we are going to work in that sector of saving the heritage of Pakistan, we will name it Indus Heritage.
Wonderful.
That was the beginning. We have the idea came to us of embroideries of Pakistan was when we held a very large conference in 2012, and
in 2011 you took up on the chair
yes,
as well, right?
Yes.
Wow.
So 2012, when we started, we were going to start the second project. We had a large conference in which all the stakeholders from the SAARC region were invited, and so were Pakistani stakeholders. So the second day, I just held a small round table meeting with all the SAARC countries. So even Nepal was included, Afghanistan was included, because it has a beautiful heritage of many things. When I asked them, we had people from Washington also, when I asked them this question, what should be the second craft that we work on? So they almost unanimously said, but the Indians did most. They said, you know, the embroideries of this region are the most beautiful embroideries that come from the Indo-Pak subcontinent. And we have stopped seeing those embroideries because now all we see is machine work.
True.
And very little hand embroidery. So we took it as a challenge and we surveyed Pakistan. Two areas we found very rich in embroideries was the south of Punjab and the north of Sindh.
All right.
So in Punjab we work in Bahawalpur, Lodhra, Vihadi and Muzaffargarh.
So south of Punjab is, I mean, apparently right next to the north of Sindh anyway.
Yes,
you know, so it is that region. Okay.
Correct. And these were disadvantaged people. Mostly South Punjab, as everybody knows, is still a bit disadvantaged. And so was this part of Sindh.
All right.
So we set out on a mission. I took it up on myself as a chairperson to identify communities.
All right.
And to go to every community and give them this feeling that you will benefit a lot from it. So I asked them, I asked the women, I said, why have you left your beautiful embroideries? So they said several reasons, but the main reason is that nobody values it, and when we make something, it is bought for such a lower price that we don't feel like doing it, and our young population is moving away from it. So what is the problem? What are the main problems you identified? They said, we don't have designs, we don't have proper cloth, we have no guidance, and there is no marketing for us.
True.
So I said to them, if we do these things, will you cooperate? And they said, we'd love to. Because
and we even have the pictures from those areas as well.
Yes,
wow.
Yes. So I personally, believe me, went to every community and I told them what we are going to do after identifying their problem. Then came the challenge of, because they are very conservative areas, we really were challenged in Sindh. Punjab is conservative.
But why?
They said, no, we don't want you to talk to our women. You tell us what to do, we'll pass it on to them. I said,
but it was a lady, you know, who actually was willing to talk to their women as well. Why would they have reservations to that?
They had great reservations. So anyway, we broke those barriers, and even today we work with them. We put them into communities, into villages where we could put them
I would like to you to pause over here. Can we go back? Yeah. What's happening over here? Is it like somewhere where we have this exhibition and people are coming in to get what they've made?
Yes. The first time I took the exhibition of these artisans to New York.
Wow.
and New York has 2 floors of only handmade goods. So when I took it there and it had Pakistan written behind it, that was the time when Pakistan was wrapped up in bad sort of wrapping papers saying we are terrorists and we are bombs, and especially for the Americans. So they couldn't believe that this was handmade. So they said to me, no, this is machine made. So I said, please come and I'll show you it's handmade. And so they turned around and they were convinced it was handmade. We put all these women into workshops. We taught them why is it important to make a design exactly as it is. And I say it very proudly that probably we are one of the non-government organizations that has a whole design studio.
Wow.
We give internships to art schools students. And we, after giving them internship, a lot of them learn the business ropes, because it's not only design, it is how you translate it.
Exactly, that's true. And you obviously want 100% execution of that design, because otherwise it's not going to sell the way we've thought about it.
I used to go, the designers used to go, we set up an office in Bahawalpur. We have a large office in Bahawalpur and Sakkar.
Wonderful.
So we taught them how to do, and it took us almost 2 years to teach them how to. And now what they do is, in that exhibition when I went to New York, it was judged as a museum quality embroidery.
Wow.
So 5 museums buy from us from time to time. And we were very happy, very happy. And so from that day onwards, we market the things, we give them design. We still are very much involved with them. It is amazing how proud, the first thing I used to say to them when I went to communities, that you are not factory workers. You are artists.
Exactly.
Who create. So don't think you're factory workers. You are artisans, and that is what I want to work on.
And that is the true uplift of that segment of the society as well, and this is how everybody needs to kind of behave with them as well.
Yeah.
Which is why, ma'am, now what I would like to talk about is that obviously, first their reservations were, okay, you cannot have a conversation with women, and then, you finally, alhamdulillah, got through that as well. That must have been a great challenge for you. Yeah. Not just that, then, bringing in the designs, then making sure that the people are going to comply to whatever your demands are, which I believe is wonderful. But now imagine, what I see is that, for example, when you went to New York, you might be going to other countries as well to exhibit, so that, that your people can have the benefit of whatever they have worked in or whatever hard work they've put in. How is the demand like when we talk about Pakistani artisans for Pakistani consumer market?
The demand is slowly building up.
Okay.
And we do get orders from abroad.
Wonderful.
We do have...
so internationally and nationally, what's the difference?
Internationally, yes. Internationally, all countries recognize handcraft a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
And they value handcraft.
Even when you go to, get a customized suit, it kind of costs you like 500, 600 pounds only.
Yes. So slowly we have built up a reputation as a heritage company that works with heritage lines of Pakistan. So the nice part was that when I was growing up and my parents took me to a village, the nice part was that in the afternoon we saw women come and sit together, and somebody did crochet, somebody did whatever work they knew. So that was a part of our culture which we had moved away from.
Exactly.
So we brought them back not only to their heritage but to their culture. So today what we do is, whatever stitch belongs to Punjab is done in Punjab. Wow. We know exactly which area does it. We have workers who turn out such beautiful, like what I'm wearing.
It's beautiful. I was about to say that.
Is their work.
Wow.
Tarkashi. There's a specialized word called Andi Booty.
Andi Booty?
Andi Booty.
Andi Booty.
So I asked them, why have you named it this? Because I'd seen it somewhere called Banarsi Tanka.
Okay.
So they said, you know, in this time, the women, when they do this, it's so intricate that some of them lose their eyesight working on it for 10, 15 years. And the social impact Indus heritage has had in those underdeveloped areas is great. We empowered them to the sense where they earn a lot of money.
Exactly, and that's where I was coming as well,
Yes.
because you know, we have had this experience that we've had a lot of women over here on the show as well who actually used to go to these villages,
Yeah.
get them to, you know, do something for them as well, and then they have this shop in somewhere in Lahore where they put all of that stuff, and then whatever amount of money comes in, a part of it goes to all of those people. So it
Yes.
was, you know, literally making them feel like as factory workers as well.
Yes.
And
No.
that's exactly what I wanted to
Yes.
ask you. That, for example, when you know and you realize that they are artisans, they are artists, and these are
Yeah.
pieces of arts where museums are calling you to kind of give it to us as well. How do you think is the distribution of monetary assets done alongside, you know, people within South Punjab
Yeah.
or people in Sakhar?
What we noticed was that when we started to pay them, which was very handsome pay that we give them for their work, we guide them and then we give them work and we pay them very well.
Wow.
What I noticed was that usually they used to come up to me and say, you know, my mother-in-law takes the money, my husband takes the money, I don't have any ownership of the money. So we worked with MobiLink to come up with a special product. It's not Mobi Cash.
Okay.
It's a special product in which when we send them money,
Online.
we get the list
Yeah.
of who's worked on what, and we send them the money. It is given exactly to them. It doesn't go to anybody
Wow.
else.
And you know, they do not even have to
Yes.
speak with anybody that, okay, we've got this
not
money.
at all.
Wow,
And they're
that's
very
fun.
happy about it. So they're very happy. We did a very interesting project with UNESCO. UNESCO wanted us to do this project in Punjab.
All right.
So, with due respect to the Punjab government did support this. And so we got work done. I hope they display it.
Exactly. Yeah, we displayed all the pictures you've given
Yes,
us, you know,
yes,
and
yes.
I believe that our audiences have given it a good look.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we showcased it in Alhambra for 3 days.
There are the pictures as well. We have
Yes.
the pictures. Yes.
And they were such wonderful work, because what UNESCO wanted was to find out if our our communities are multi-religious, we don't have any. So we right now, if you go to Sindh, we have Tharparkar, which is almost 98% Hindu. And also in Punjab, we have Christian communities.
True.
We have Hindu communities, we have Sikh communities. So for us, they're all equal. They're
Exactly.
all artists.
Exactly.
For us, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So who's who? So this was UNESCO's focus. And we came up with such beautiful, we converted their art into museum hangings.
Wow.
Museum. So now the UNESCO, I had suggested to UNESCO, they're the owners of these embroideries.
Yep.
They paid for it. So I think in the very near future, we are going to exhibit in the National Center. Is it called the National Center on
PNCA?
No.
Pakistan National Council of Arts?
Shakkar Padiyan.
Okay, Shakkar Padiyan, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So Lok Virsa, we have an MOU with Lok Virsa, and Lok Virsa is also very keen to display them.
And that's wonderful as well, ma'am. But thank you very much for joining us. It was wonderful to have you over here on the show and to speak about, you know, for the very first time, I actually came across somebody who's talking about artists in the first place, who's labeling them as artists as well. And then, you know, they're giving them all of those benefits which they truly
Yes.
deserve. And
Yes.
it was so heartwarming to see
Yes.
that you've dedicated almost more than a decade now, alhamdulillah, as a chairperson, you know, for the Indus heritage as well. So kudos to you. Best of luck
Thank you.
for near future.
The last word I
Sure.
want to put in is, I always sign their checks. We had 3 baseline studies done.
Yeah.
How we started, why did they leave their craft, how we did in the middle, and then in the end.
Yep.
So those baseline studies showed us that they were going away, then they come back in the middle, and now they're dedicated. I signed their checks. Believe me, the minimum check I sign is $5,000 to a woman, 5,000 rupees to a woman.
Wow.
And the maximum is 50,000.
Wow, that's wonderful, and I believe that's going to give them a good reason to have a great livelihood and kind of invest more into their skill as well. Thank you very much for doing that. In fact, their future generations will even think about, picking up on what their ancestors did. Ladies and gentlemen, this is something where we were talking about how to keep our heritage intact, and that too through artisans and our culture as well. But right now, we're actually heading out towards a short break. It's about time that we bid favor to Ms. Sadiqa Said Malik Saiba as well. Thank you very much, ma'am. And once you guys are going to come back, since we were talking about the welfare of artisans, why not talk about the welfare of the citizens as well? Good morning. Lovely day so far for me, alhamdulillah, and this is exactly what I hope and pray for everybody who's out there as well. Imagine that we were in conversation with ma'am, where ma'am was telling us that, how they're promoting, the exactly same culture which used to be there, but actually was depleting and was dying. And now that, alhamdulillah, that they have a lot of demand of the work the artisans were doing in the south of Punjab and north of Sindh as well, the demand's increasing and their livelihood is getting better as well. But since we were talking about artisans, now, ladies and gentlemen, it's about time that we talk about our citizens as well, and that there are a lot of non-governmental organizations who actually join hands together to kind of make sure that, that the betterment of the society is in place as well, that the SDGs are in place as well, that whatever the country aims for, or however we can be that source of welfare to provide to all of those people who are in need, is something which will be talking about as well. And since we know that we have gone through, in fact, the world has gone through the toughest time of the pandemic as well. Now, post-pandemic, what are we looking at, and that one problem with me is that, every time we talk about disasters, the only sad part is that, we kind of come together after the disaster. Why are not we putting in that kind of research into these affairs that, that we can actually save it before the disaster, rather than going to the rescue right after, when, God forbid, there have been floods, or God forbid, there have been, earthquakes, God forbid. There are so many unforeseen reasons as well. But now, this is how I would want to refer to them as well, that these people are actually angels over here on earth who work for the betterment and the welfare of the society. We have a small report to share with you guys. When you guys will come back, we will be talking with the members of Pakistan Humanitarian Forum, and they have their own duties to themselves because they represent other NGOs as well. But how INGO works is something which we'll be talking about. And let's see, what do we have in the report? Please go ahead, take a look, and when you guys will come back, we will be in conversation with these amazing angels. Wow, let's do that.
International non-governmental organizations aim to highlight contributions and success stories of humanitarian and development initiatives across Pakistan. The Pakistan Humanitarian Forum represents 37 international non-governmental organizations delivering humanitarian assistance and development projects in Pakistan. In addition, 7 observers, which includes the National Humanitarian Network, serves as a central coordinating body working through connections with a broad sector of the humanitarian community and standing seats at the UN and government coordinating fora at the national and provincial level. PHF is an independent coordinating forum that supports and facilitates the work of INGOs to effectively address the humanitarian and development needs across Pakistan. All PHF members are required to sign and adhere to the PHF Code of Conduct, and in doing so commit to providing humanitarian and or development assistance to the people of Pakistan based on need alone, regardless of nationality, gender, background, political affiliations or religious beliefs. The vision of Pakistan Humanitarian Forum is to build a society where all stakeholders collaborate to uphold their responsibility to meet the needs of vulnerable communities in Pakistan. PHF's mission is to represent, coordinate and advocate on behalf of INGOs to meet humanitarian and development needs. PHF does this through 3 core services: coordination and information, communication and advocacy, and the provision of safety information and support to its members.
Framework of PHF, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that everybody might have understood it, so that we really do not have to talk about it again and again. But very quickly, without any further ado, introducing the first angel on my right, ladies and gentlemen. He happens to be the country director for CESVI, and he is Mr. Faran Ahmed Khan Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Walaikum salam. Good morning, and thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much. I can see a halo on top of your head as well. That's how angels look. But thank you very much for joining us alongside Mr. Farhan. Ladies and gentlemen, we're lucky that we've actually been joined by the country director of Mercy Corps as well. She is Miss Farah Noreen. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Hello, and assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you. Last but not the least, we have actually been joined by the country director, Hope 87. That's the year in which I was born, in 1987. And he is Ms. Shweba Heather. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Walaikum assalam. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Wonderful to have you. So we have given away the framework and how PHF actually works. So we do not need to discuss it anymore.
Sure.
But talking about pandemic and how things were, when COVID actually came down to Pakistan, or probably globally, because when we talk about PHF, obviously it's a global platform. So how did people come together? What were the services provided by PHF, and what is PHF doing as of now? Let's get started with that.
Okay, thank you so much. So basically PHF, or Pakistan Humanitarian Forum, it's a platform of 37 international organizations, all working in Pakistan. So when the pandemic hit our country, you know, it was unprecedented. This is the first time the whole world has seen this pandemic.
Novel coronavirus.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, you know, all the member organization of PHF, they sit together and discuss that how we can support government of Pakistan, because this is something, you know, a well-developed country cannot, you know, really counter this alone. So we need support. So all these organizations sit together, you know, chalk out a plan and support the government efforts to fight against this pandemic.
Exactly.
Whether it's supporting people who lost their livelihood because of the lockdowns, etc., whether it's supporting our hospitals to build their capacity so that they can support better the people of Pakistan, or whether it's about risk communication, so we can convey the message that this novel coronavirus is a dangerous virus and we have to, and we have to save ourselves, you know. So this was mainly our purpose, and I'm happy to tell you that altogether 37 international organization of PHF reached to 25 million Pakistanis. You know, this is our target, which we have already achieved, and we have invested almost 150 million USD so far in last 1 year.
Okay, that's wonderful. But you know, talking about how many million USDs are actually being spent is not something which I'm going to appreciate over here. Unfortunately, it's because of the fact that we really need to see how much actually went to the grassroots. And speaking about a country like Pakistan, where more than 35 NGOs are actually under the umbrella of PHF, I believe that the framework should have been larger than life, that you could have at least reached 100 million people as well. So moving on to Ms. Faran now. So Ms. Faran, when we talk about, you know, reaching out to people, and that, you know, sir very rightly mentioned, I'm in no way I'm taking away that starlight away from the kind of work PHF has put in. I believe it's great, but I believe that there's more space to make it more better as well. So now, talking about these frameworks which are in place, you know, I mean, I'm going to give you an example of, obviously it's not very relevant, of FAFIN, where, you know, they are the elections observatory, and then, you know, they have people all over Pakistan. So they have this framework. But imagine that, you know, 36 NGOs came together and they still were only able to reach out to 25 million people. It still is a question mark. Because when we talk about pandemic's more faster than PHF then, you know, because it's reaching out to the world, God forbid. So how do you think that these frameworks can get better so that our societies are more safer?
I think the data, the numbers that Farhan is talking about is more to do with the direct beneficiaries of certain services. The good thing about creating a platform like this is to make sure that we're able to expand our reach and we can minimize any duplication, because there are so many actors in the field, so many INGOs, other actors, and coordination is really, really important to make sure we go where the most underserved communities are and provide the services that the communities need, and we align them with the government priorities. So those are some of the things that we are focusing on.
That was a safe answer, yeah.
I do want to specifically talk about COVID as well, because the pandemic is very much here, and we are experiencing different waves of it, and more will keep coming till the time we have robust vaccination in place and people are getting vaccinated following SOPs and stuff like that. I specifically want to talk about some of the impacts this pandemic has, and there are primary impacts such as impact on health, which the INGOs tried to respond to in line with the government priorities, but then there are secondary impacts which have got to do with livelihoods, for example, support that the families needed in the time of restrictions where they couldn't go out and earn their livelihoods. So I do want to highlight this whole array of services that the INGOs have been able to mobilize, not only specifically supporting the health interventions and hand washing and provision of soaps, for example, or protective equipment, but also providing cash support to the families, food support to the families, working on education all along. So just a few examples to highlight.
I believe that was great as well. So, you know, getting that light back onto PHF, I believe, is a wonderful thing that you've done. And you've explained it wonderfully well as well. And I truly appreciate the kind of services and the kind of hard work you guys have put in. But moving on to you, sir, now what I would love to ask is, because I was going through the profile of Pakistan Humanitarian Forum as well, they say that we need to improve the social economic condition of the poor, marginalized and vulnerable. How do we do that?
improving lives of the most marginalized and vulnerable people is through a very participatory and inclusive process, which also is related to the transparency and accountability of our actions and transparency of accountability towards the people we serve.
Yep.
The process whole begins at the very design stage and involvement of the end beneficiaries in the design aspects of our interventions. Then at subsequent stages, these groups are involved in the monitoring and also delivery of aid. So it's a very comprehensive process where the primary level stakeholders, who are the end beneficiaries, plus the government level stakeholders, be it the district level, the provincial level, or the federal level, as the case may be, as well as other actors such as UN agencies or national civil society organizations and INGOs. They all come together to make sure that it's a very participatory, inclusive, transparent and accountable process to identify the needs, to deliver in a timely and efficient manner, in a cost-effective manner, and to make sure that there is the aid is reaches where it is due.
Yeah, that's true, and thank you very much for saying, because this is something which I wanted to pick up on as well, that identifying their needs. And I believe that a lot of research does go into it as well. So, sir, moving on to that part of where Shoaib Sahab said that we need to identify the needs. Now, from if you start from China border, Khunjrab to Pasu, and then moving on towards Sindh, Pakistan is beautiful, we know that, but we do have issues. For example, there are people, just in the first segment we were talking about that how in South Punjab and north of Sindh, people were just kind of getting over the kind of craft they had to themselves just because of the fact that they weren't earning that kind of livelihood which can save their lives for that part as well. So how do we identify those needs for people who are out there? How do we identify that, okay, these are the areas which are badly hit or severely hit as well, and this is where we need to reach out to people?
Okay, so as my colleague explained that, PHF always work with the government of Pakistan.
Yeah.
So one source of getting information is the government of Pakistan itself, whether it's national level, provincial level or district level.
Wonderful.
Then we have outreach to the far-flung areas of Pakistan. We have our teams stationed on those areas, and ideally we always try to work in areas which is not been targeted by other services. For example, there are areas in Tharparkar, there are areas in Gilgit-Baltistan, there are areas in South Punjab, Rajanpur, DG Khan, mountainous regions where it is very difficult to provide all the services. So we have this capacity, trained staff, equipment, logistic arrangement that we can reach to those areas and we target these areas.
Wow.
And the first thing we do is actually to do a survey to find out again the poverty ratio in these areas, how many people are earning livelihood that is sufficient for them, maybe how many children are there who are malnutrition. So we have to support them because this is a big issue in Pakistan. So it's a holistic approach, and then we coordinate with United Nations, we coordinate with line ministries, there are national organizations we coordinate with. So it's a complete holistic approach that we always apply.
Wow, that's wonderful. And moving on, talking about that, building up on that once again. And this is going to be my last question, where we're talking about PHF, and now then afterwards, because we'll be only left with 2-3 minutes, I have another issue in my head which I want to discuss. And that is that, sir very rightly mentioned that we have those teams who are going to reach out to people as well. But now what I want to know is that obviously, you've mentioned quite a lot of times that PHF actually works with the government organizations as well, where, we come together to talk about or do something which is, or we're going to refer to it as welfare of the society as well. What is the kind of response you get from governmental offices when you go to them in public offices and you said this is a hardly struck area and we really need to reach out to them, so we need this kind of assistance? What's the feedback you guys get?
Okay, so I think I'll give the example of COVID, for example, where the government immediately facilitated INGOs to start working immediately because it was a humanitarian.
They did a great job.
Yeah, and that's how everybody was able to mobilize. And I tell you, Pakistan is a big country. It's a huge population. We have to have partnerships. We have to use the strengths of each partner to make sure that we reach the underserved population. But even with our longer term programs, the development programs, we have to align them with the government priorities to be able to achieve impact, because if the priorities are not aligned, we will not be able to demonstrate impact. Working on
And
the
are
ground.
they usually aligned?
This is how the INGOs work. There are development goals that we have to achieve. The government is a signatory to those. The government's priorities are aligned with those, and ours are aligned with them as well. And this is how I think there's so much work that the government does, and then there is this sector
So it's hand in
yeah,
hand.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, Shaib Saab, I'm sorry that I will have to pose this question to you, and I would want everybody's take on this, because it's only last 1 or 2 minutes that we have to ourselves. I was in conversation with somebody who was working for an NGO and was getting paid 1.7 million rupees, per month. And, my next question was, that, all of this aid money which is coming to you, you're supposed to give it to people who are vulnerable or vulnerable segments of the society. Rather, you're getting a bigger chunk out, which obviously you asked for in the first place, that you're going to help people. So how do you, kind of tell people that, okay, that this is something which I'm getting? How do you justify this kind of amount, which we're taking out from the money which we were supposed to give out to people? So don't you think that within these INGOs or NGOs, we should have this cap of salaries? Okay, you're coming, you're working, wonderful, but you should have a normal livelihood because you picked up on this. So what's your take on this?
The INGO sector in particular and the civil society sector in general is a very, very highly regulated sector.
Okay.
It is regulated at our home countries abroad. It is regulated within Pakistan. It is regulated by the donor community. It is regulated by the whole operational environment is built around this regulation procedures. And there are very set rules about how much money from a certain project can be spent on administrative costs and actual program.
Okay, that's wonderful. Even if, I'm sorry that I'm going to take it 30 seconds longer, my producers we have to wind it up as well. Even though that, the lines are being drawn and the caps are there and that it's regulated, don't you think that it's our duty to kind of say, yaar, 5 lakh mein guzara ho jata hai, 17 lakh kyun loon?
If you look at the larger chunk of the organizations, you will find that they are very compatible with the market. A person who has spent like 20 to 25 years of service in the corporate sector, for example, let's say.
I mean, consultants are being paid 500, 600 pounds per day, sir. That's not justified. And we'll have to do this debate some other day as well.
Yes.
But yeah.
But if you also have to look at the service they bring and the quality of the inputs they bring to the program delivery. That's how a lot of innovations are happening and have happened in Pakistan in the agriculture sector, in ecotourism, in conservation agriculture.
Exactly.
This does not happen. It's easy to say that it can happen for free. But there are costs involved and they are justifiable costs.
Exactly. Thank you very much, sir, for saying that. And obviously nothing happens for free, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I wanted to get out as well. But thank you very much for joining us. It was wonderful to have you. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, these people are truly angels as well. And that one example I put right in front of you is not that everybody's doing that. Please make sure that you write to us on our Facebook page, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you get a chance. And the repeat is going to be at 5 past midnight. It's going to be a great day, I hope, for everybody who's out there. Look after yourselves. Good morning.